Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Raw Report for the first Monday in the year 2021. Again, Happy New Year to people. I can stop saying Happy New Year now. Anyway, this is the 4th of January edition of Raw Legends edition, and you know, I almost am going to start viewing at least WWE main roster stuff as comedy because if I view it as anything else, it's tragedy, and I'd rather laugh than cry. It's so bad, it's becoming funny now, um, and it I don't understand how they could think that anyone with some semblance of logic would enjoy this program week to week. I'm not saying the talent isn't good. I'm not saying that you can't have segments within the show that people would enjoy. What I'm saying is, episodically speaking, could a person watch this program week to week and become a fan of it if they'd never been a fan before? And my gut instinct and my heart of hearts is there's no way that could happen unless you're marketing to children who have the attention span of like a 6-year-old. There's no way that you can get new fans out of this. Anyway, um, they open the show with a show recap showing a video of Hulk Hogan showing an H phone, kind of plugging that and saying his catchphrases. Hogan in his, I believe, 70s is not something that people should really be looking for as a nostalgia act that's going to do anything. Anyway, Miz TV with Miz and Morrison. Miz uh, runs past a couple matches. Morrison plugs a few of the legends to appear tonight, including, now get this, Miz himself. And that's how far we've fallen, is there are people that would consider the Miz a legend. Miz said management has finally come to their senses, returning him the Money in the Bank contract. They introduced New Day as their guest. Kofi Kingston welcomes Miz and Morrison to the show. Xavier Woods talks about their fake news show that they made fun of, Miz and Morrison. Uh, Basically say they use the word correct about 87 times in the course of a really campy promo. Miz said that this is an audition for Woods because he fails on G4. How many fans actually know or care what G4 is in this market? I don't know the answer. Maybe there's a G4 market out there that overlaps with wrestling. I don't think there is, but it's possible. But even still, for those that you're trying to cross promote, shouldn't you be educating them as to what the G4 thing is? Anyway, Kingston asks questions of Miz. Miz is annoyed by this. Morrison plays along. Miz interrupts. But Teddy Long comes out. Teddy Long said he has a perfect solution. Miz and Morrison will face The Undertaker. Now, we portray Teddy Long as an out of touch old guy who doesn't even know The Undertaker retired. Then New Day sells it like they're freaked out like it could actually happen. So they've forgotten The Undertaker retired too. No, this is not comedy. This is satire of their own product, and it's stupid. Adam Pearce enters. He basically whispers in his ear that the Undertaker has retired, and there's a Long says there should be a tag match instead. Um, Teddy Long, it's nice to see him. Glad he got a payday for his family, but at the same time, this was useless. Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods versus Miz and Morrison. They go 13 and a quarter minutes. There's no reason that Miz and Morrison, guys from 15 years ago, should be getting almost a quarter hour, actually 2 quarter hours on this show, unless you really haven't built anybody up, and that's the indictment here. Anyway, New Day is in early control, and Kingston takes out Miz and Morrison. They hit dives, go to the break. New Day still in control when they come back. Distraction by Miz allows Morrison to take control a little bit here. Kingston avoids a figure four attempt, hits the SOS, makes a hot tag to Woods. Woods comes in, runs wild, hits a roundhouse kick and a forearm, among other things. Morrison tries to get to his feet and then uses feet on ropes for cover. This doesn't go well. Woods hits a Shining Wizard on Morrison for the pinfall win. Why did they bring Morrison back if all he's going to be is fodder to make The Miz, who hasn't been relevant in at least 10 years, closer to 15, look stronger? Like, I don't get why you would waste money on a talent you had no intention of doing anything with. So we're almost half hour into the show, and they finally recap the fact that, oh yeah, by the way, Alexa Bliss was lit on fire last week. So somehow, New Day and Miz and Morrison matter more than the near death of a member of your roster. Okay. Anyway, Caruso interviews Orton. She asks Orton what's going through his mind. Orton said the voices were telling him to drop the match and set Bliss on fire. He said he couldn't do it. Orton said everyone changed when they faced the Fiend, and he decided to show Bliss mercy, so why isn't she there tonight then if this is the case? He said he hates himself, but the hatred can be molded and sculpted into something good. He said he's capable of anything. He said he could direct the hate towards someone else. Caruso asks about the Fiend. Orton didn't want to talk about him. Orton was trying to walk around and find old friends. Then they air a clip of TikTok and New Day and R-Truth hanging out New Year's Eve. TikTok's still a thing. Like, I guess, like, in pop culture, I guess it is, but it's still a thing that WWE should care about. Okay. Truth looks forward to 2020. Ha ha ha. They tell him it's actually 2021. He said he returned from Australia. Angel Garza shows up and pins him for the 24/7 title. Garza's a guy that they could have done something with, and they killed it. Like, why is a guy who was a tag team champion not too long ago, why is a guy you're pushing with some sort of frequency of gimmick in this throwaway match? Like, I don't understand. Anyway, Garza is wearing the same suit he wore in some previous video. He's flirting with Alicia Fox. Why is she relevant? Talked about how beautiful the new championship was. She asked him if he saw the TikTok video of the guy riding around with cranberry juice while listening to Fleetwood Mac. Garza says no. She's shocked by this. And this is just another throwaway segment. Garza keeps walking, finds Sergeant Slaughter, Mickey James, and Tatanka. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong here. He tries to give the rose to James. She could care less. Sergeant Slaughter calls him a maggot. Now, AJ Styles with almost defeated Elias with Jackson Riker. Riker in 2021 we're supposed to take somewhat seriously. AJ Styles is being wasted in a throwaway segment with Elias, and they go nearly 9 3/4 minutes. This is stupid. Anyway, this is a rematch from last week that no one cares about any more than they did last week. Elias is in control for a lot of it. Styles hits a forearm. They go to break. Elias catches him with a knee strike for a near fall. Styles comes back with a brainbuster, and Styles clash for a pinfall win. And this took 10 minutes. 10 minutes of my life I cannot get back. Throwing away a guy in AJ Styles who's retiring maybe at the end of his contract? Why aren't you getting more out of a guy like AJ Styles? Anyway, after the match, Riker tries to attack Styles with a guitar. Styles ducks and almost kicks the guitar into pieces. When are we actually going to see almost do something that actually counts? They aired an interview earlier today. Sarah asks Charlotte Flair if she has any advice for the Royal Rumble entrance. Charlotte said she shouldn't listen to the critics. She said she's one of the favorites to win this year's Royal Rumble, but won it anyway. She couldn't even keep a straight face saying this, and she said she'd win again this year. Go into the second hour where absolutely nothing has mattered on this program. Riddle speaks to Big Show backstage. Riddle asked if he'd consider being Big Bro. Big Brother reference in 2021? Anyone? Anyway, Show likes the idea. Riddle leaves, gets ready for his match. Orton confronts the Big Show. Orton asks how it felt knowing he can't get back in the ring because of him. And so Show said he could get back in the ring anytime. Orton puts his hands on Show. Show didn't do anything. Show looks completely weak. And yeah, you have a giant who doesn't even fight back. Show is happy to be there with the legends. Orton calls him basically a useless coward. Okay, so now we go to a women's throwaway match that's completely useless. Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans defeating the tag team champions Asuka and Charlotte Flair. That is correct. Two completely underwhelming talents in Royce and Evans defeated Asuka and Charlotte Flair, two of the best talents, and they went 12 and a half minutes with this. Royce and Evans double-team Flair early to gain an advantage. Asuka comes in, cleans house. Royce knocks Asuka off the top, and Ric Flair, who's come out by the way. So the best way we know how to use Ric Flair is to put him in a throwaway women's match. Yes, his daughter's involved, but still. Anyway, he has a friendly exchange with Lacey Evans outside. Charlotte takes offense to all of this, and she slaps Evans in the face. Charlotte confronts Rick about it, and Evans tackles her, which leads us to a break. So basically, Charlotte Flair, who's, I don't know, almost 40, hasn't figured out that her father is a horny old man. Anyway, Evans and Royce works over Asuka at the break. Asuka makes the tag to Charlotte, who hits Evans with forearms, chops, and a suplex. Royce tags back in. Charlotte suplexes her as well. Charlotte hits a moonsault for both women before Asuka hits Royce with a Shining Wizard. For a near fall, Asuka kicks Royce, and Charlotte hits the natural selection. Asuka breaks that up. Evans gives Asuka a neck breaker in between the ropes, and then she goes back to flirting with Ric Flair. Even the announcer, who's a C-stringer in Byron Saxton, notes that this is stupid. Charlotte focuses on Royce. Royce sends her into the rope. Rick isn't paying attention, and he puts his hand and he trips his own daughter by mistake. Royce cradles Charlotte for the win. So, you bring Ric Flair, who's a 70-plus-year-old man, who's a COVID risk, and you throw him into this? Like, are they brain dead? Anyway, Charlotte gets in Rick's face and demands he stay out of her business. Rick nods and cowers down. Obviously, this is kind of heelish of Charlotte, but at the same time, Rick looks like a bonehead, and his daughter looks like a heel against her own father. Somehow that's not the nostalgia most people want to start the new year. Sheamus wishes Drew McIntyre luck in his match. He asked McIntyre to give Keith Lee an extra kick when he's done. McIntyre said he'd do whatever it took to win. Hogan and Jimmy Hart appear. Hogan puts over Sheamus and McIntyre. What? I understand putting over McIntyre because he's the guy. Why is Hulk Hogan endorsing Sheamus when Sheamus hasn't been relevant in at least 10 years? Anyway, McIntyre takes the compliment. McIntyre asks Sheamus if his big mouth reminded him of Hart. Sheamus is offended. He said he'd see them at the bar later. So now we're riffing off Adam Page. Anyway, Hart tells Sheamus to lighten up, and they left. And McIntyre looks into the camera and said Hogan's catchphrases directed towards Lee. McIntyre and Hogan posed together. This was just, I guess it's kind of cool, but the fact that you have to go back to a guy who hasn't wrestled in more than a decade and who's peak was at least 25 years ago, maybe, if not longer. Um, in Hogan, that's just sad. Riddle defeated U.S. champion Bobby Lashley with MVP in a non-title match. Um, Not a fan of this because you've been pumping and pumping and pumping Lashley. Riddle finally beats him and he gets by on a fluke. Anyway, Riddle attacks Lashley pre-match, and this is as they're exchanging the belt with MVP. The referee separates them. Riddle's on offense. Lashley blocks a penalty kick and sends him into the post. They go to a break just about a minute after the match starts. Lashley's in control. Riddle slides out the Dominator, hits a kick, and gets a 1 count. So the penalty kick is now a transitional spot. Riddle follows with a flash knee for near fall. So a UFC fighter, a real life fighter, can't seem to knock out Lashley. Not that Lashley isn't a fighter, but build this up as something. Anyway, Riddle goes to the top. Lashley grabs him and hits a Dominator. A la Ron Simmons. Lashley applies the Hurt Lock. Riddle tries to counter, kicks off the middle ropes. This doesn't work. Referee has to get out of the way because he almost gets kiboshed in all this. Lashley has the hold applied, and referee is again out of position. So referees look like idiots on this show. Anyway, Lashley lets go because he thought he'd won the match. However, the referee didn't see Riddle tap. Lashley argues. Riddle gets a roll up, and backstage, Ricochet thanks Mark Henry for some advice. Why is Ricochet going to Mark Henry for advice? So, anyway, Ricochet leaves. Orton shows up. Orton makes fun of Henry for using a scooter and then told him he owed him a lot of receipts for being super stiff and the world's strongest man over and over. Orton warns him and told him to leave, and he does. MVP tells Caruso that Riddle tapped and is a quitter. He called this a travesty of justice, and they basically hype that they'll fight again somewhere down the road. Shayna Baszler and Mandy Rose. Remember how women don't really matter here? Match doesn't happen. Rose makes her entrance, and they shows a replay of Baszler beating up Dana Brooke from last week. Baszler interrupts the replay, attacks Rose from behind. Brooks runs down and challenges to defend her friend. Now, Dana Brooke defeats Shayna Baszler in 39 seconds. Baszler has Brooke in the clutch, and then Baszler's shoulders are down. Ref counts to 3. Brooks pins Baszler. This is just gosh. And this is the third match in a row with a roll-up finish. Okay, so Ric Flair speaks with Molly Holly and IRS backstage. Molly and IRS leave upon seeing Orton enter the camera shot. Anyway, basically Orton tells Ric Flair and Charlotte and tells Orton tells Flair that his daughter's better than him and that Rick is a pathetic old man. That's a way to pump nostalgia. Anyway, Lee's getting ready for his match. Riddle wishes him luck. We go into the third hour. I've literally seen nothing that makes me want to watch again next week. Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy go 14 minutes. Why are two guys over 40 killing a quarter hour on the first show of the year when you could be hyping, I don't know, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, how 2021 is going to be different. This is so sad at this point. Orton gives Hardy a back suplex on the announce table early in the contest. Orton's in control until Hardy hits a neck breaker and a clothesline off the apron. Orton is back in control after the break and even uses Hardy's earlobes as a way to get an advantage. This causes the announcers to have a conniption fit over how brutal this is. Anyway, Hardy comes back with a jawbreaker, a leg drop for an near fall, whisper in the wind for another near fall. Orton hits a draping DDT. Orton counters an RKO for a win. So Orton is still being pushed in 2021, and yet he's already faced McIntyre. So maybe we're going to see Orton and Goldberg somewhere down the road. That could be maybe something. We'll get there in a minute. Lucha House Party bumps into Melina in the back. She joins them with a Lucha chant, and that's her cameo for the day. Lucha House Party defeat the tag team champions, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, with MVP in a non-title match in just under 3 minutes. I had forgotten completely that Benjamin and Alexander are the tag team champions, yet I watch every week. Alexander keeps tagging himself in. Maybe they're splitting him off from Hurt Business soon enough. Benjamin brushes off all that's happening here. That leads to an argument between the champions. Lince Dorado kicks Benjamin, tosses Alexander from the ring. Dorado nails Benjamin with a pinfall attempt and gets like the 5th roll-up finish on the show. MVP tries getting Benjamin and Alexander on the same page, and that doesn't go well. Tori Wilson speaks with Nikki Cross in the back. Garza tries to give Wilson a rose. Didn't he already do this once tonight? Wilson told him that she invited some celebrities to Raw, and they're in the other room. Cardi B is there. Is she still relevant? Garza believed that he'd go in the room only to find the Boogeyman. Is he still relevant? Garza bails out. Truth rolls him up to win the 24/7 title for the 768th time. And Cross and Wilson skip away together. Ron Simmons shows up and says, damn, they can't even do a legend show right anymore. Anyway, Drew McIntyre defeats Keith Lee in 21-18. This would have been a dream match 6 months ago. Now it's just an afterthought. Booker T, Jeff Jarrett's on the stage, as well as all the other legends we've seen tonight. Lee is in control. McIntyre tries a comeback, fails twice to get Lee up for suplex. McIntyre nails an overhead suplex on the 3rd attempt, so the champion is being made to look weak, even though Lee lacks the confidence to really be aggressive here. Lee dodges a Claymore kick and gets a chokeslam for a near fall. McIntyre goes to the outside. Lee goes to the apron, but is distracted by the referee. McIntyre powerbombs Lee through the announce table. We sure do love these announce tables still in 2021, don't we? After the break, McIntyre hits a clothesline for a near fall. And then McIntyre hits the Future Shock DDT. This causes the fake crowd to chant, "This is awesome." Lee hits a Spanish Fly for a near fall. So that could be like a WrestleMania moment, a guy that big hitting a Spanish Fly. Instead, it's a throwaway on a Raw no one cares about. Awesome. Anyway, McIntyre comes back with a spine buster. And then McIntyre goes for the Claymore kick. Lee catches the leg, blocks it. McIntyre hits a Claymore kick for the pinfall win. Anyway, legends give this a standing ovation. McIntyre and Lee do a fist bump. So they were enemies, now they're friends again. McIntyre grabs the mic and is about to say something. Goldberg enters. Goldberg said he couldn't think of a better representative of the championship. McIntyre has all the tools necessary to work. He says he doesn't have respect for the legends, even though he was posing with Hogan earlier. Anyway, Goldberg said McIntyre must look at the legends and think he's better now than ever. Goldberg says he doesn't want him to think he's demanding anything. Challenges McIntyre for the championship at the Rumble. So, a guy who was last most relevant in 1998 is going to be challenging for the championship in 2021. McIntyre said Goldberg wasn't the same man he was 20 years ago. True. Fighting him would now be like fighting his dad. Ouch. Goldberg shoves him. McIntyre gets to his feet, and they get face to face, and the show ends. This show is just everything not to do in a wrestling show. I recapped it in less than 30 minutes. It's 3 hours of junk. There is nothing that would make a sane person want to watch next week. And I hope this does less than 2 million viewers. And I hope this the show continues to fall. Not because I want the talent to suffer, but because I really do hope that at some point USA says, save this show, do something, and if you don't, we're going to terminate the show. I think at this point, that's the only way WWE will ever be salvaged, is if they stand to lose tens of millions of dollars. Would USA do it? Probably not, unless they drop to like 1 million viewers and they're getting beat by AEW. But at this rate, in 2 to 3 years, I could see that happening. Anyway, until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.